You can check out what we've been doing at Eden Fractal over the past 3 years in the Eden Fractal blog. If you participate in Eden Fractal Epoch 1, then we encourage you to claim your respect using the Fraps interface that Tadas has built.
You made a big progress, and I think like big stuff can evolve out of small stuff. As I read your message about the third year anniversary, that's also impressive because it shows like that it really works as a resilient platform.
I think it's always don't do voting at all. Like there's always a winners and losers, but here there is like different caveat because I like it where you're always like voting for everybody in the end.
Each of the stage, you distribute the tokens according to the levels, where instead of proof of work, it's proof of human action. So this becomes a form of universal basic income backed by the consensus of all the participants.
And we're experimenting with a tripartite governance structure. So this would play like a legislative role in the Optimism Fractal Council, where people can register to join a council if they want each week, and then people will be kind of elected if they have enough respect.
It's much simpler, and it enables people to really be creative and experiment and follow their intuition, and that for when you have talented people, that's what you need really.
The Eden Town Hall. So for this Eden Town Hall, it's kind of a second part of our 2-event anniversary celebration for Eden Fractal, our 3 years of Eden Fractal. And so we just played the respect game there. Eden Fractal recently launched on Base and Ethereum, started its Epoch 2 2 weeks ago. And now after 3 years of building the fractal ecosystem and fostering growth for people in all kinds of different ways who want to make better decision making, we are here joined for our 3-year anniversary celebration at Eden Town Hall. You can learn more at edentownhall.com. This website was created a while ago, and I kind of just made some quick updates lately. You can RSVP. Basically, Eden Town Hall is a community forum dedicated to exploring the future of collaborative decision-making and fractal governance. It's here to support the Eden Fractal community and really everybody who's interested in better decision-making, better governance, especially people who are interested in fractal decision-making processes, such as the respect game, respect token, and associated software, and so forth. Like I said, we support Eden Fractal, which you can learn more about at edenfractal.com, community dedicated to optimizing collective decision-making through collaborative research development, education, gamification, community engagement. And you can register for both these events on the Optimistics calendar at lou.monstersoptimistics, and we invite you to invite your friends. There's also the Optimism Fractal events every other Thursday too, but Eden Fractal and Eden Town Hall happen on bi-weekly on Thursdays, alternating with Optimism Fractal. All the videos are published on the Eden Creators YouTube channel. We invite you to watch and check out the videos from last week, or 2 weeks ago rather, about the Eden Fractal Epoch 2 launch and the first event that we had coming back from the Town Hall, where we revived the Town Hall. It was actually the first time we did Town Hall since 2023. So it was a great revival that we had and great discussion. So thanks everybody for participating. You can check out what we've been doing at Eden Fractal over the past 3 years in the Eden Fractal blog. We have an Eden Fractal Epoch 1 retrospective that's quite detailed, and learn more about the new Epoch 2 initiative in edenfractal.com/blog as well, where you can learn how you can get involved and the new features of it and who should join and benefits. I already gave this presentation earlier, so I'm going to go very quickly. But basically, several people have claimed their respect from Epoch 1 on Base. If you participate in Eden Fractal Epoch 1, then we encourage you to claim your respect using the Fraps interface that Tadas has built. And you can watch this video to learn how to claim it, where Tadas and myself go over the process. And you can use the app for Eden Fractal and also the Optimism Fractal app on Base, which is serving as an oracle to help people claim their respect from the EOS blockchain to the Base blockchain. So check it out. Check it out. You can learn more about ORDAO at optimistics.io/ORDAO, and there's a video here on the page which provides a high-level overview of how the app works, and we go into all the benefits of it and so forth that we're using for Eden Fractal. I think that does it. Yeah, basically, we have an open discussion now. So as I shared in the beginning, it's a place to welcome everybody to share their thoughts and stories about fractal governance. We have several people who have participated in many Eden Fractal events in the past and are joining for the first time in a while, like Sebastian and Evgeny. So a special welcome to you guys, and thanks again for joining, and hope you enjoyed your respect game. And we also had the pleasure of being joined by Tevo and some members of the Cardano community. Jorge has been rallying around a Cardano fractal, or starting it up, and Zal from the Zal fractal, and of course Rosemary and Tadas as well, who have been helping Eden Fractal all along the way in many ways. So yeah, basically, thank you for being here once again, and thank you for listening. There's also some really nice messages here too. I shared that already, but thanks for being here, and I'm really energized by the opportunity to transform how communities and organizations make decisions in our fourth year. So I think that we now have a lot of the foundations in place, unlike the first 3 years when we were getting the foundations in place, and we still are. But now we have a lot of technical infrastructure, educational resources, a thriving culture, and I think that we're now ready to really enter a new era and expand our reach dramatically while empowering each participant to advance fractal governance in their own communities and projects. So I'm excited to honor our journey here and celebrate and just hear everybody's thoughts, as well as collaborate to go forward to create a future where fractal coordination benefits communities everywhere. And with that, the floor is open. Previously, we were hearing a little bit of feedback from Tevo about thoughts on the respect game. Also saw Sebastian and Evgeny. So if anyone wants to share their thoughts and reflections on the respect game, or just say hello, or share, I've written in that message how each person could share a story, and that's actually, yeah, I didn't bring this up, but the past 2 years at Eden Fractal, we had like some big celebrations where we did stories or speeches where everybody took a turn and shared a speech or a story. And so I think that's a good idea to do, where everybody can share their thoughts and we can maybe go about it in that kind of structured way where everybody takes a turn. Alternatively, we could just have an open conversation too. It's not as formal as we previously planned it. But I see Sebastian's unmuted now. So Sebastian, would you like to share anything?
Yeah, I think I can just congratulate, sorry, congratulate you guys, the whole team, I guess, everybody who's involved. I've seen a lot of videos. I didn't have the time to follow like all the year. Yeah, it's like been 24 months, I guess. Yeah, and yeah, I think you did a great job. I mean, we also did a lot of community building back in Germany when EOS launched and so on. So yeah, I can kind of a little bit compare this to how we started back then as a little group. And yeah, you made a big progress, and I think like yeah, big stuff can evolve out of small stuff. Is yeah, well done so far. Yeah. And as I read your message about the third year anniversary, that's also impressive because it shows like that it really works as a resilient platform for people. So yeah, I can just congratulate you. Your everybody who's involved.
Thank you so much, Sebastian. We really appreciate it. Yeah, it's been a huge honor, and really appreciate your kind words. And yeah, I'm really curious to hear what you were up to in your sec game and what you've been up to. And I know you've done a lot of great community building in the past too. So I look forward to watching that video if it'll be available. And also, I was wondering, I saw somebody shared a message in the live chat as well about how Eden Fractal has great potential, but also faces classic risk throughout history. I know sometimes you've changed your Telegram handle, so I wasn't sure if that was you or not. But I remember also you provided feedback on the Epoch 2 article when I originally published the original proposal last year, and really appreciate that, and really appreciate you following along, even if you haven't been able to join the events and you're busy with other things to catch some of the videos and remembering about us and coming here to join us again and also all the kind words. So yeah, thanks so much for all the support and everything. If you want to share anything else, then feel free. You're very welcome. I see Tadas has his hands up too, so we can pass over to Tadas next whenever we're ready. Or else we can put him up to heart as well.
Yeah, I mean we can just move on. I can tell a little bit more later. So.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
You're looking forward to chatting. And I'm also wondering who this person was too, who made this really thoughtful comment. I don't know if it was you or not, or somebody else, but a very thoughtful comment that I appreciate in the chat. All right, Tadas, do you want to go ahead?
I think that it might be worth touching on what Tevo said. He said there was some parts of our respecting process which he was confused about. I did not quite understand what exactly he was talking about. And yeah, I saw Jorge responded as well. So maybe if others agree, I would like to clarify that. Tevo, do you want to explain what you meant?
So the learning I basically got from George is that when I saw these results on Telegram that, okay, 60%, 40% here in the first no, and then algorithmically my first assumption was, okay, then we know who is level 6 and level 5 and we can move on to the level 4 and then we get the next result. But what George mentioned was that discussion was critical to have the person who is voting to make that choice that he has to choose somebody else, and that probably may philosophically affect the person who is voting. I'm more like a system designer, like, okay, let's get this voting stuff as done as good as like as fast as possible, because from my like standard process of designing, it's always don't do voting at all. Like there's always a winners and losers. But here, there is like different caveat because I like it because where you're always like voting for everybody in the end. Although we didn't go to the end, but like you could already see it, like was some quorum that okay, 20 to 80%. So it was still allowed as or maybe that was just the Telegram doing the janky, that because there was missing a level and maybe something algorithmically went wrong and that's why it looked like that we broke the voting process. But yeah, so for my learning is that it's more of philosophical effect that we are doing a consent process and we agree all the 100% to one thing. And I actually somewhat agree with that because there is another, in a one budget program, we do quarterly like proposal process where we also want consent. So every core contributor who basically are active members, they have veto rights to a proposal and one object. So everybody needs to consent or abstain. And then you just kind of give signal that they don't have time for this proposal, read or something else. But it gets attention to very specific person or agenda. Yeah, so I don't know if I got it right, maybe I just can correct
Yes,
me.
thanks. Now it's clearer, and Jorge's response I think was correct, and I can share my perspective. So here the point is for community for breakout room to reach consensus on the whole ranking. And how it does that, it's up to the breakout room actually. Actually, where we don't have a rule that we have to use a particular tool or particular process to reach consensus. And the way I see the voting in this Telegram group is that it's just a consensus building tool. But what we're looking for is consensus. If we had a tool where we just voted and we reached like some majority vote for some participant and we moved on, then it would be just, when you're voting, you're just sharing an opinion. But and your opinion might be wrong, and there is no incentive to make your opinion better. Whereas if you have this requirement to have consensus, you go through a deliberation process, and that improves the accuracy of a result. And also, actually, it creates an incentive to listen to other people when they are talking, because if during voting you end up in a stalemate and not able to have consensus, then when you have to share an argument or something to reach consensus and so on. Whereas if it was just voting without requirement for full consensus, then you could just vote and not worry.
Exactly. You could just vote and be selfish about your vote, and instead of contributing to the community through your vote, just trying to game the community through it. Also, you can look at it as you know, the problem of consensus is crucial to the blockchain theory. So you could look at this as you have these small breakout rooms, and you have 6 nodes or 5 nodes within that breakout room, and each of the rankings is a transaction. So you need to guarantee that the whole set of nodes, just as in a blockchain, the whole set of nodes arrive to consensus at each of the transactions. And one transaction is a ranking, a level. So it kind of atomizes the distribution of funds individual by individual through consensus. It's really fractal. It's pretty amazing. And this leads me to another point that I think could be useful for Dan in his selling the idea to venture capitalists, which is that when Bitcoin arrived, there was no AI. And currently, Bitcoin is consuming big amounts of energy, and there is a debate about it. And most of the people that defend this consumption argue that, well, it's green energy, so it's not really polluting, but it doesn't matter. It's still a big waste of energy. And here we have in the fractal process a way to distribute tokens. It's just like Bitcoin, but instead of having proof of algorithmic work, you will have to have proof of human action. So at each of the stage, you distribute the tokens according to the levels, and but instead of proof of work, it's proof of human action. So this becomes a form of universal basic income, very powerful, backed by the consensus of all the participants. So at some point, Bitcoin will have to compete for energy against AI, and that's not a waste. AI is not wasting energy. And when that time comes, all the miners will have to decide whether to spend to put their equipment to work for AI or for mining Bitcoin. And that, I think that's a flaw in the Bitcoin algorithm. So I believe that we have a opportunity here to sell this idea as a form of universal income with global impact and permanent social backing. Permanent social backing from grassroots consensus. So I hope that helped you, Tevo, to see another perspective. Tevo and everyone, of course.
Thank you, Jorge. And thank you to Tadas as well. So I agree with that. Hopefully that's been helpful for you, Tevo, and for everybody here, everybody watching. Maybe I'll add a few quick points onto that I was inspired by, and then we can also, if Tevo would like to respond, then feel free, or maybe we can also hear a bit from Rosemary and Zal and Evgeny. Also, there's been some interesting comments in the chat as well. I encourage people to check it out. Tadas has now published the links or shared the links, I guess, to the respect distribution from room 1 and room 2. I guess one of those rooms is probably shared already, but if you haven't submitted already, then you can click those links to submit Onchain now. And there are some comments from Tevo saying he depends. He used to put GBT through Troves of Pain with lots of prompts. Okay, yeah. Depends how I use the AI, I guess. And also Tadas had written that people who have participated in Eden Fractal Epoch 1 can claim respect at the link, which I mentioned before, and it gives them voting power in the governance process and may someday become part of a split that can receive donations, or likely. So yeah, tagged Evgeny and Sebastian there. So feel free. There's some chats there where we're going over that. So yeah, going back to the prior discussion, thanks again to Tadas for bringing that back up, and Tevo for asking originally as well. Just a few other points that I can add on, because I think that Tadas and Jorge said it very well. But I think with all these things, it's like there's so much you can dive into with the philosophy. So I'll just share a couple of quick thoughts here, just because it's interesting, and then maybe we'll hear from others and zoom out a little bit into more general fractal governance discussions, or continue this if we decide to. One thing that I'll mention is that Eden Fractal and the fractal governance processes that we've been working on have actually started with a different process. Now we play the respect game where we rank between level 1 and level 6, but we started as Evgeny and Tadas and Jorge and Sebastian know, and Rosemary with the community, the Genesis Eden community, which happened before Eden Fractal, where we actually just picked one delegate and we had to reach consensus on that one delegate. And that's another variant of fractal democracy, which has its own merits. So that's kind of like where it comes from a little bit, where it's that importance in reaching consensus, kind of like how you have to reach consensus in, say, a national election, but doing so with this fractal process. And yeah, there's some great comments that kind of hinted at like how that active deliberation and consensus building can really build community, and that's important. And then one other thing I'll add too is that a great developer, or a couple great developers in the community, Vlad and Lenar, have built an app called Respect.games that they have built a different kind of respect game where it does not require everybody to reach consensus. And there's actually another developer in the community, another great developer named James Mart, who designed a new consensus algorithm, which I'd love to implement at some point, because I think that there is potential for different kinds of respect games and different kinds of fractal governance. I'm a huge, huge fan of the consensus building that we do here, and I think it has immense benefits in many ways, but also sometimes it is helpful just to have like maybe a short game that's faster, that doesn't require consensus for different kinds of situations or different kinds of communities. I think there's like a lot of variability that can happen in fractals, and the app that Vlad has built, Respect.games, or so as Vlad has led the development of, it has it where it just has a basic algorithm for you to vote, and then you get respect tokens based upon what like how many different votes you get and how many people rank you level 6 or 5 and so forth. And this more advanced consensus algorithm that James Mart built builds in a thing where the more consensus you get on the votes, the more respect you get. So that's never actually been implemented because it will take some engineering work to do, but that's something I'd love to do to also help facilitate the development of that too. So eventually people can play different kinds of respect games and do different kinds of fractal governance. But for the time being, the one that's been the most successful and the most common has been this kinds of consensus building during live events, because all the benefits that brings up that Jorge and Tadas mentioned as well. Tevo, I see you raised your hand there. Would you like to share any other thoughts?
More like a question. Like you shared like like different like times you like iterations going through this. I'm all yeah, kind of lost my thought there, but I just wanted to learn about like what made you to change to this kind of style. So or even start with the respect. And all actually was the different change, because I noticed even in both downloads you mentioned that you're moving from like Epoch 1 was different chain. Like is that thing you're building, is that going to be like a cross chain thing, or it's or the tools behind like the blockchain tools that you're, it's just experiments which computationally costs less, or what's the like the goal of changing the different like base infrastructure, like not base but like the infrastructure itself, and thoughts on that?
Well, that's pretty easy. Previous protocols failed, many of them. For example, the first iteration that Dan mentioned, in which people chose a delegate, it failed for the same reason that it didn't solve the problem of rational ignorance, nor the problem of incumbent advantage. By incumbent advantage means that, I mean that you choose a delegate, and that delegate receives some power, and then he can use that power to self-perpetuate, which is a particular case of a more general problem of representative democracy, in which people receive budget based not on results but in promises. That's the same thing that is happening currently on Cardano. People present a project, a proposal, and the community decides whether to give funding or not. But still, that allocation of funding is based on promises. They are expecting the proposer to deliver, but there is no guarantee that it will be so. That's one of the big advantages of this protocol, that you distribute the funding, in this case the respect, but it can be any liquid token, to work that has already been done. And if you, for example, compare the output of this community with, for example, the drama that you can face in in other communities where funding is about to be allocated before results have been delivered, then you can see that the drama and the drama here gets minimized, and the sense of community and cohesion gets increased. So that's one of the advantages. And also the reason for changing, one of the reasons for changing platforms comes from the failing of the other blockchains. When I first arrived to Cardano, I mentioned that I had belonged to several ecosystems that failed because they couldn't solve the problem of governance. And that problem included incumbent advantage and rational ignorance. One of those ecosystems that failed dramatically was EOS. So the first attempt this community had to solve these problems were in EOS, but the whole EOS ecosystem became centralized. So the whole community had to migrate to currently Base, and I'm trying to go to Cardano for personal reasons. But those, I think, are the answers or part of the answers to your questions.
Thank you, Jorge. Great answers and great responses. And thanks, Tevo. I see Rosemary put up the heart and Tevo giving a thumbs up. Looked quite deep in thought. I also have, I see Tevo shared some other questions. Thanks so much for your interest, Tevo, in asking all about this. Really appreciate it and very curious to hear more of your thoughts. I still have to read your message. And then I also have some more thoughts I can add about the transition to Base, as well as the transition from prior ways of doing fractal democracy and the experimentation. I'll also share in the link in the chat too, in case I forget. The Respect.Games app that I mentioned before, and the Eden Fractal blog post that I wrote about upvote elections, which kind of gives a little overview of the history of the Eden elections before Eden Fractal started, where you can learn more. And I do have more that I can answer you, but also I want to be cognizant of time, just make sure that we have time for everybody to speak to. So maybe I'll round back to answering your question in more detail, and then also we can address your questions in your last comments there. But first, we can also just see if, okay, Rosemary said, it's okay, I'm good to listen. Well, if you would like to speak, Rosemary, then I'd be very happy to hear from you. If you want to wish us a happy anniversary or anything like that at any point, you always shine and cheer us up a bit. And so feel free if you want to, but no need if you don't. I know it's late for you right now. But yeah, maybe first if Zal or Evgeny, if you want to share any thoughts before we get deeper into the questions of why base and why moving on, or maybe Evgeny can also provide some insight, because I know that he was active, I believe, in the original Eden on EOS community. But yeah, of course, if you want to just listen in, then that's welcome too. But would love to hear from you, Evgeny. It's been a while. So if you want to share anything, then feel free. And Zal as well, or Tadas, you're kind of asking about the other stuff. But if anybody has any other comments, or Sebastian, you want to jump back in, then feel free. And then I suppose once we decide to, we already have a lot of great topics that Tevo brought up there, and that we can swing back to. But yeah, would anybody like to share anything else more generally now? I see Sebastian's unmuted.
Yeah, I think like what George said was very interesting, but I think corruption is like regarding the selling point part of it. Like everybody here is voluntary here, so I guess that kind of solves the problem of corruption in a way. You know, as well, like it's a different kind of selling point, you know. Just some thoughts I had.
Good point. Yeah. Although I might say that, I mean, voluntary, if we have a situation like Jorge was talking about, how hopefully we can raise funding, we talked about that a lot. So if and when we do raise funding, then we'll still want to make sure that, like, then it wouldn't be so voluntary. I mean, it would still be voluntary. We're here on our own voluntary, on our own volition, where we can join if we want to, but there still could be corruption in that case, if like people are like trying to get more funding or stuff like that, just to challenge that thought a little bit. But
right, but transparency is also enhanced, I guess. So it minimalizes the risks for, you know, like promises, broken promises. And I think everybody who was involved with yes. That's what I'm talking about.
Well, great points. Thanks for sharing, Sebastian. I see also Zal wrote, gotta go, love the combo. Thanks for level 6. Nice to meet new folks to him. Thanks all for being here. And you're very welcome. Thanks for all the great work with the DAO Fractal and for joining us here at Eden Fractal. Hope you have a great day and looking forward to collaborating with you going forward. And if you want to say goodbye, then feel free as well. But he's out. All right. And yeah, Sebastian, if you want to add anything else there, then feel free. Or if anybody else wanted to share any thoughts, then feel free as well. If there's a gap in conversation, I can also share more thoughts about the topic.
Tevo just asked about the funding allocation. The funding allocation is right according to the level. So whoever got level 6 will receive more funding than whoever got level 5. And that distribution is not linear, but is mapped to a Fibonacci distribution or a Pareto distribution. And that in order to really make to really create an incentive for people to get to the highest level possible. So just as we did in the Cardano demonstration, where you asked why the person with level 6 received 20 units of respect versus the person with level 5 received only 13, and I explained about this Fibonacci distribution.
Good points, Jorge. I'll also add that's one way it could work. So it also could work in different ways too. Like it's kind of up to the community to decide, I suppose, how funding is distributed with his consensus processes. And I see Tadas has his hands raised, so maybe we'll pass it to Tadas now.
Yeah, this is one part where we are still like figuring things out. So far, these fractals, Eden Fractal and Optimism Fractal, have not been distributing funds. Well, Eden Fractal in the beginning it did distribute some funds, but it was really small amounts. Maybe this did increase participation a bit, but yeah, it was small amounts. Yeah, and I see your question also seems somewhat about decision making in general, like who would distribute the funds. So the simplest way to do it, especially if you need some general decisions, not just based on respect game. So simplest way to do it would be to use ORDAO. ORDAO at its core has a smart contract where respect holders vote, and it has a really smart mechanism for how it passes a proposals. Basically, you can make a proposal to execute any action on the network, on the blockchain network, on behalf of the account of the DAO. Yeah, so you create a proposal, people vote, and then yeah, that proposed transaction can distribute funds, for example. I kind of this is not my vision for how to distribute funds. I'm more my vision is to have to play respect game for a season or two, and then after that create a split contract based on respect distribution, and then funds would simply go to this immutable split. So if you earned like 20% of respect during these seasons, you will earn 20% of all funds going to that split contract. There are other options, so it's something that we are still discussing.
Yep. And also to address another question that Tevo had asked, thanks for the thumbs up, Sebastian. So Rosemary had written in the chat, respect voters vote using their respect tokens, and Tevo had asked one vote, one token. And then also in the chat before that, Tevo had asked, is the respect weight to a decision, or does it intrinsically select top respect owners to be decision makers? So it can work either way. In ORDAO, it works where one respect token is one vote in the ORDAO executive functions, basically. So, and it's an optimistic respect-based executive contract, but basically, yes, you vote with respect tokens, and one respect token equals one vote to be able to execute decisions on chain. That being said, there also are different kinds of forms of governance that have been pioneered and tested and could work with fractal governance. So, for example, I shared the Respect.Games app previously, and that works where it automatically selects top respect holders to be the decision makers in a council. So the way that Respect.Games works, I believe, is that there's a people basically it automatically chooses three of automatic it automatically chooses a council of the 5 people who have earned the most respect over the past 12 games. And then that council can execute transactions on chain if they get 3 out of 5 to basically agree on a decision. So it could work either way, where it's kind of more like a liquid democracy, but respect weighted liquid democracy, like a respect weighted liquid democracy in a way, like ORDAO. Or I don't know if I would say liquid democracy actually, because the real democracy aspect comes from meeting in these respect games where truly one person equals one vote to actually decide the respect distribution. But then once the respect tokens are distributed, then it's rooted in democracy, but it's an amount of respect holdings and reputation that you have that allows you to vote. So it's like a reputation weighted form of democracy that ORDAO has with one token, one vote. But yeah, there's also possible to have councils where past 12 weeks or past however long, whoever has the most respect for him gets to be part of a council. We also have different systems too, like in Optimism Fractal, we have an Optimism Fractal Council where people can join a council, and we're experimenting with a tripartite governance structure. So this would play like a legislative role in the Optimism Fractal Council, where people can register to join a council if they want each week or every other week in that case. And then people will be kind of elected basically if they have enough respect, or if it's basically the top 6 respect holders who register that week will be part of that council. So that's another variation of ways in which it uses the respect token to provide access for people to have some governance power. But yeah, it's kind of like an open canvas in terms of how you can design the governance once you have the respect token. But these are some of the examples that we're doing or that others in the ecosystem have been pioneering to help people cooperate with the respect token. And I see also there's been some comments there. It looks like Tadas shared a link to OREC. OREC is the main smart contract at the core of ORDAO, which determines how decisions get executed on chain. And then Rosemary shared that that's what makes it meritocratic by voting with their respect tokens, I believe. I don't know. I'll have to read that. Feel free, Rosemary, if you want to share it out loud. Yeah, I was also confused why Rosemary said no, because it, it is one vote per token. But I guess maybe what Rosemary was saying is like a lot of times it's like one liquid token per vote, or one liquid token per vote. Yeah, in which case that's plutocratic because people can buy tokens, whereas this is meritocratic because you have to earn your tokens from respect games, or from the community in some way. Anyway, I've been speaking for a while. Feel free, Rosemary, if you want to clarify that, or Tevo, I see you're unmuted, or Jorge, I see you are too. Still haven't heard from Evgeny too. Would love to hear from you a bit if you want to say hello. But otherwise, feel free to jump in, whoever wants to speak. And also, we have like 15 minutes left or so to the top hour, and we'll try to be pretty punctual about it.
Yeah, the issue of having people distributing budget is that then you defeat the whole purpose of the fractal process, which is to reduce incumbent advantage. So the proposal I did to the Cardano ecosystem, the proposal I'm aiming to implement there is the budget is distributed according to the respect people earned in the breakout rooms. And then you could have something like, for example, divide the budget in 2 buckets. One bucket is distributed to the whole community via this respect game, and the other budget is preserved for the committee. And you can have a rolling committee of the moving average, the highest 12 moving out. Yeah, the highest, let's say, N members the highest N move members, well, the members with the highest N moving average of the, let's say, X weeks, those people could be the committee for certain governance purposes, like updating the contract, or, for example, if someone decides to receive a donation, or if the community receives a donation in any other token different from the respect token, then those funds could be managed by the committee. But the whole core token, from my perspective, needs to be distributed in the way Bitcoin is distributed, after proof of action, as I said before.
So basically, the way if well, my assuming that this the way like let's say there are grant funds and there are more stuff that coming up related to governance, and I see that DC is what you're pulling is DAO tooling, and let's say they get the grant to come together. Okay, this is what we propose. We can do this fractal democracy tooling for this like on-chain activities or integrate some kind of tooling with that, and you get $100,000 for this grant. And then I guess the way you are working is that you don't decide how to spend the rewards itself. You start everybody working. Like maybe probably some coordination is happening. Okay, I'm gonna work on this, I'm gonna work on that. And then next week you basically decide the roadmap. This 100K is gonna be spent in 6 months, and everybody who participates in 6 months, every few weeks, we're gonna do this respect game, and then like part of that funds are just going to be distributed. So it's not about planning so much. Okay, if this developer is doing that part, it's gonna cost me about 5,000 to 6,000. It's just gonna do it, and it's just the network will figure itself out how much that work is valued. Is that
Exactly, and that makes it more efficient and more redundant. It's more anti-fragile, because then you could have several people trying to implement the same aspect of the whole thing, and they will have to be competing. So I think that's much better.
And Sebastian's given the strength to us.
Yeah, and it's also this kind of structure where is no like top down telling of what to do to people. This kind of structure is optimal for, I would say, for research and for creative for new creative ideas to arise and for people to innovate, basically. I realized this. I'm currently reading a book about history of Unix, and it covers Bell Labs history a bit. So Bell Labs was a research laboratory in US during during 80s or 90s, or between 60s and 80s, something like that. So basically, and it produced a lot of new innovations that inspired a lot of technologies that we are using today. And it had unprecedented productivity in terms of research and amount of literature that they produced. And the way they worked is that they would hire people, top students from top universities, and these new people would come, and nobody would tell. We would get introduced to some people there, and then we would have total freedom to do whatever we want. Nobody would tell them what to do. And then the critical part is that at the end of a year, heads of departments would gather and evaluate everyone's performance, and then adjust everybody's salaries based on that. So this is similar to what fractals are doing. Do not have a system to tell everybody what to do. Just have an evaluation process for evaluating what people have already done. and distribute funds based on that. And it's much simpler, and it enables people to really be creative and experiment and follow their intuition, and that for when you have talented people, that's what you need, really. And it's from real life, it seems that it can work.
Yep. Thanks, Tadas. I remember you shared a message about the Bell Labs and history of Unix that you were reading about a month ago in the Eden Fractal chat, and that prompted me to listen to a podcast with one of the people who is working closely in Bell Labs and learn about it. I agree with all that. Also, one more thing I'll add to that too, in response to, I suppose, I think it was Tevo's original question, is I do think, I thought Tevo also said that, a couple more comments, feel free to unmute and share that too, but I do think that fractals can, while they're beautiful and work very well for this kind of emergent coordination, that's decentralized and not planned, I think it also could potentially work in the case of like, hey, we need a developer to do this and they need to be paid $6,000, whatever it is, because you can, once you have that governance process can make decisions. And up till now, most fractals haven't had much funding. The first Eden election actually had a significant amount of funding for the first couple of years, but that was before Eden Fractal and everything like that. So we haven't really put that into practice, and mostly it's been on this kind of voluntary and just emergent way where people give what they want, and that's got immense potential, and it's built everything that we have so far basically. But I do think that it's possible as fractals grow that they can also evolve this kind of proactive funding and coordination skill as well, and be able to do that as well or better than other organizations because it's done in this like truly meritocratic way as well, where they can direct resources going forward if there are resources available to be directed. So, but yeah, great discussion overall though. And yeah, I encourage people to check out the Bell Lab stuff too. I've been learning all about Unix or Unix and open source revolution. Thanks to Das for all the inspiration there, as well as thanks, Jorge, for all the thoughts and also inviting for Tevo too. Really appreciate all your questions, and I have to read some of these chats. I see Jorge's unmuted. I suppose we should try to wrap it up in the next 5 minutes or so. It's getting late there for some people, and we will have our next Eden Fractal event in 2 weeks. Everybody's welcome to join, and we'll also have another Eden Town Hall then, so we'll have more time to discuss then. It looks like. And then, of course, we'll also have Optimism Fractal and Optimism, well, maybe we'll have Optimism Town Hall. We implemented a new rule that we don't necessarily always have Optimism Town Hall. And we might do the same thing with Eden Town Hall at some point, make it where there's a minimum threshold of voting in the future. But currently we have Eden Town Hall right after Eden Fractal every other week. And for next week, we'll have Optimism Fractal and Optimism Town Hall. Everybody's welcome to join these. So yeah, if anybody would like to share some last thoughts for this anniversary event, then please feel free to share, and let's try to wrap it up pretty soon so that we can
Yeah, I wanted to say that in the case of Cardano, a much bigger ecosystem, the way I could foresee this working is you have the initial fractal game, then after some weeks, you will have the highest rolling averages, the people with the highest rolling average of respect. That people can form a committee of, let's say, 10 people. The number of people in the committee needs to grow logarithmically. I created a paper explaining why. Logarithmically with the number of attendants to the fractal meetings. And now the committee can do the following work. For example, in the case of Cardano, they can establish a budget from the whole ecosystem. We will assign this person to, let's say, marketing, this person to technology, this person to whatever. So they establish the percentages of the budget. And then the community itself will form within those subgroups for each allocation of the budget and perform the fractal process. And for the part of actually doing complex tasks and avoiding waste of energy because of lack of coordination, we could use sociocracy processes that I've seen are pretty evolved on the within ecosystem. So I think that could give us a whole framework of budget allocation and decentralized innovation.
All right, well said. Tevo put up the heart. There's been a lot of great comments in the chat too. I don't think I'll have time to read them all, but thanks all for the great thoughts and encourage you to, or I've read them all, but I don't think I'll read them all out loud right now. If anybody wants to read out their messages here so everybody can hear it, then feel free. I know Rosemary just asked a question about the path for someone who's contributing that doesn't get expected reward after time, and I don't know if Tadas and Rosemary want to share that. It would be helpful I could read it out loud, but also I don't know. We could go a bit longer if we want, but also don't want to take up everybody's time too much. And if we get into a question, that could be a long discussion. I love how inspiring this discussion is in general, and I saw also Tevo is unmuted. So yeah, maybe if anybody wants to just share their thoughts out loud, then we'll have a like a final round. We can go 5 or 10 minutes after if we want, but we'll try to be like pretty concise and punctual and so forth. But yeah, I saw Tevo, you're unmuted. I see Jorge said leaving about 5 minutes. So yeah, maybe we'll extend the meeting 5 minutes and we'll try to wrap it up there. Tevo, do you want to share any last thoughts? Or Rosemary, did you want to share any of that out loud? Or Tadas or Sebastian or Evgeny or Jorge? If there's anything else that anybody else wants to say, then feel free. These are kind of the last chance for this week's event. And of course, we'll have more events in the future.
Yeah, that's a great session and good, like a place to learn about alternative ways. How can you bootstrap governance? And like, I'm always interested to see new networks and how they adopt. And I do see also a lot of potential. Like this area of governance is very unnoticed and not like unrewarded. And I feel the pain that is in behind the discussions of this consistent voluntarism and not people understanding the value of trying to build systems that just intrinsically make people to work together. But there is a lot of places and like I myself have somehow got into positions and positioning myself into leading grant funding and advising them where to move funds in terms of how do we govern like globally. And to me, even if we are talking, I'm like more like in the Cardano ecosystem, what discussions are there, how we go cross-chain, because it's not about what blockchain we use. It's just how do we teach each other and how do we use the methods we have put. It doesn't matter which chain we are using. So yeah, it's great to see that it's like popping up everywhere in around the world. And it's probably gonna stay tuned in this and over time, perhaps you get to learn what I do and how can I help that network. And also actually a meeting coming up and so on.
Okay. So the question I have for Dan is, when are you going to bring the first $1 million so that we can have some testing on actual funding with the respect game and to test the incentives for everyone?
Yeah, Jorge, after our discussion last time, I gave a call to Jerome Powell because I thought that maybe he could help us out with the money printer, but he hasn't gotten back to me yet. So I don't know. He's not. Maybe I'll try giving him another call because I'm sure he'll be good for it. But no, in truth, I don't know. I'm joking. But
Oh, you are joking. I almost believed you.
no, I don't know Jerome Powell's number, and I don't think he would probably respond to me. But he should, though. If he knew what's best for the world and for the country and so forth, I think that it'd be in his best interest. But he's probably, I don't know exactly. I've never met him before. And so maybe one day we can get through to him. But maybe stay tuned for the answer to that. I don't have it totally solved yet, the $1 million, but working a lot on figuring out ways to get more funding for the community as well as all communities who are practicing fractal democracy. And I think that is a major and really the biggest priority for fractal ecosystem. I mean, it's wonderful to have these events and so many amazing contributors. So obviously the people here is like, none of this would happen without the people and without the ideas and principles, but we also really need the funding to take it to the next level and grow it. So I'm I'm focused very much on that, and I'll give you updates as I have them. And similarly, Jorge, if you want to help raise a million or maybe 500 grand or whatever it may be, then that'd be appreciated, as well as anybody else who wants to help support the Fractal ecosystem, either by helping us get funding or by, contributing, telling friends. Really appreciate you, Jorge, inviting Tevo and everybody today, or just joining the events. Once again, great to see everybody here. So we really appreciate all kinds of contributions and are really thankful for it.
I'm pretty confident I can get $1 million within about 1 year to 2 years in a liquidity pool against respect for the Spanish community. So whatever ecosystem first helps me to create that smart contract, I'm very confident I can get the community bootstrap it and about $1 million within a year in that liquidity pool. So I'm trying to do it on Cardano, but if those guys take too long, then I'll have to come back to Optimism or Base in order to onboard my Latin communities, Hispanic communities actually.
Sounds great. I love the vision and love the plan. And yeah, I'm quite confident that we'll get to $1 million too. I think me doing it, you doing it, others doing it. I think we'll probably get much more than $1 million in the longer term. But we'll have to take it one step at a time. I see Rosemary said testing with actual funding is a good next step with a smiling face. And Evgeny also wrote that B1 once gave 500K to Eden on EOS. So maybe we can ask them again. And Tadas says yes, right? She left EOS for base, and B1 left EOS too. So maybe that could be our way of reaching out to them. Hey, you left EOS too, so why not? And also the market goes up too. That'd be nice too. The market with all the blockchain tokens and so forth. Yeah, which I think will happen probably. I think that we're in a good place, a good market position. But yeah, I do agree, Evgeny. We can, I think reaching out to B1 and others there's a lot of people who are interested in supporting fractal democracy who have some funding. So I think that reaching out to them at some point. Last week we talked a little bit about a nonprofit organization, which I've been looking into, which would provide a structure to potentially be able to have kinds of donations to be able to facilitate that in some ways. Also could work in different ways too. But that's just one thing that I've also been thinking about too. And it is 5 past, as Rosemary said. She previously said, let's be punctual, and we can discuss next time more. That's correct. So thanks, Rosemary, for the check. If anybody has any last quick comments, then feel free to jump in real quick. But otherwise, I think it's a good time to wrap it up. And if everybody's ready, then the way that we usually end these Eden Fractal meetings is we count down 3, 2, 1, and we say go Eden Fractal. And that's a fun way to send us off. And I also want to just thank everybody once again for the amazing past 3 years, as well as the amazing event today. It was a really excellent discussion. So really appreciate you all being here and really excited for the next year and the next 3 years and much more together. I saw Sebastian was unmuted and Jorge and Rosemary. Does anybody want to make a quick last comment, or should we, or are you, is everybody ready to and up for joining in a 3, 2, 1 go Eden Fractal?
Let's go Eden Fractal.
Okay, we got a thumbs up from Sebastian as well. And I think Rosemary's ready. And I think Tadas and Evgeny are ready too. So,
Sure.
All right, sounds good. Well, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Go Eden Fractal.
Go Eden
Fractal.
Fractal. All right, thanks all, and happy anniversary, and see you next time.
To you.
Thank you, everybody.